Hi, I'm Caitlin McGowan, and I'm going to talk about the specific experience of being a creative team member in an ad campaign's advertising team. I'm going to look at how I've had to pull all of my existing uni theory and experience together to be able to apply it in this semester. So firstly, part of my experience was working as a creative partner with Adam, which was great because I just wanted to write and ideate and he just wanted to do the research and provide the focus as a director. So being creative practitioners outside of our advertising degree as well was really helpful, and having Alex, who's one of our digital producers, also being a visual designer, really helped to push our whole creative activity to a new level. So the first step of the process was analysis and research, which was done by everyone but me. Then Adam and I sat down to go through it all so that we could ideate and figure out how to focus our ideas and how to assess what a really good idea was. So we knew the insight and the target market, and that was where we started. So we knew that all the audiences wanted was to be at home rather than at a hotel. So we knew that audiences really wanted to be at home rather than at a hotel. More insight came out of the brand audit that Adam did, which told us that consumers have existing relationships with other hotel brands, although the research from our planners told us that they weren't actually very involved and there was little loyalty. So Adam also discovered that almost every mid-range hotel in Brisbane was owned by the same company and had the same marketing execution. We then had our media and digital information, which said that native advertorials and in-flight magazines and social media and online video were all really important platforms. So with all of that information brought together, it was clear that we had to make people think that Jen would be more of a home to them than all the other hotels on offer, and that it was something worth making a more involved decision over, and we had to use those channels recommended to us. And make sure that our execution was different to what anyone else was doing. So for us, the best place to start and the most obvious place to start was native advertorials, because I wanted to get the customer thinking about what their actual experience of hotels was. So if we look at Matt Carlson talking about the rise of native and how it's becoming a tool not just to sell products but also to re-establish norms, and it's something we were interested in because Jen is clearly stepping outside of that typical hotel marketing boundary, so we thought that was really applicable. So I wanted to come up with a bunch of topics that would make people more open to the Jen concept and make it seem less gimmicky and more an important attribute. Actually coming up with the big idea was a very different process, and there were more than a few ramen-fueled brainstorming sessions at the edge at the State Library before we had a good array of ideas to choose from. So a really helpful guide for this was a book called Goodvertising by Thomas Colster, because it helped to establish some rules on how to direct the creative. So we had to be transparent, be honest, and make sure that we provided something of value to the audience, and also we had to make sure that we didn't exploit or insult or demean the intelligence of the people we were talking to, because we're talking to ourselves, we're talking to fellow consumers. So at the time, this was really important because our team had major concerns about whether the service of Jen was actually going to be able to deliver what it promised, and we didn't want to be responsible for false advertising. So that was something we really had to focus. So we had to make sure that in our advertising, we only looked at things that we knew Jen was definitely going to be able to deliver to its consumers. We realised after a lot of rambling that Jen's USP is not a big and easy thing to define, not some clear concept that you can just shout out to people, but it's more in all the little details in the service that's provided. So this led us to the concept of it's all in the details, and we also came up with Jen Knows, and then thanks to Shane mentoring us, we were able to combine those two ideas into one of just Jen Knows about details that make you feel at home. And then I really wanted to develop, from there it was important to take a part of the tone that we had, which was cheeky and really down to earth, and we had to work to refine it so that the whole campaign was consistent. The last really important part of the campaign was deciding if we'd done enough and whether we should expand our channel choices and come up with something that was perhaps a little bit more attention-grabbing and gimmicky, because it's really popular in advertising at the moment, even though there's arguments about whether big kind of shouting campaigns are actually good for the brand or not. Looking at, we know from reading Calder, Malthouse and Shadle's work on the definition of engagement that it is hard to be sure that true engagement with a brand is really occurring when the way that people engage can vary quite dramatically across touch points. So considering that the whole point of the campaign was to increase awareness amongst a growing target market to set Jen up for the future, we knew that we needed to add something of extra value to make the campaign stand out once and for all. Luckily, the idea of social listening to find people complaining about their hotels came to Adam while we were looking at bad hotel reviews on TripAdvisor. It immediately jumped out as being engaging and entertaining to the audience and authentic to the brand as well. So we refined it further to make sure that it worked with Gen Nose and we would have the right tone and impact. That also then contributed to the idea that we wanted to kind of give the brand a little bit more personality than the client already had. So bringing in the theories of the brand archetype, we wanted to use the caretaker archetype because that was probably the most obvious fit for Gen and it's part of the whole business ethos. So after that, I got to writing and tried to keep everything consistent while matching the appropriate type of engagement that could be expected across our channels, and worked with production to figure out what it was all going to look like in the end. Overall, I don't know that I learned anything dramatically new about creative ideation or the creative process, but more I was just able to comprehend how all of the learning I've done previously has coalesced together to provide me with the right foundation to get the job done. Yeah, and I think what I took away from it is that the theory and research can't give you that brilliant idea that you need, but it can put you in the right place to have one, and it can give you the criteria that you need to make sure that the choices you're making along the way are correct and justified and are going to result in the product that you want. Thank you to Gail and Shane for helping us throughout the semester. Really proud of the work we did and had a lot of fun. Okay, thanks.